Tonight, the vicious McDonald's brawl in Brooklyn prompts a community response, but what is that response and is it enough? Our Dominic talks one-on-one with one of the people leading that response, Dominique Sharpton. And then it's Cuomo versus just about everybody else in Albany, and does that even matter? As the state's budget battle reaches deadline time, should we care about how things get done or just what gets done? And come to that, what will Albany actually do before time runs out? And later, Robert Durst, did he actually confess to murder on TV? We'll get some legal analysis about the case everyone seems to be talking about. Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Andrew Whitman, in tonight for Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us. We begin with that horrific brawl at a McDonald's in Brooklyn last week and the reaction to it. That brawl went viral after clips like these were posted online. The girl who was outnumbered in that video was taken to the hospital for her injuries. 5 of the 6 girls police say were involved in the fight have now been arrested, and officials say several of them have gang affiliations. The incident is sparking calls for community action, including a prayer vigil outside the restaurant today. Al Sharpton's National Action Network was involved in that vigil, and today our own Dominic spoke one-on-one with Dominique Sharpton, daughter to Al, and youth coordinator for the group. Dominic?
Well, Andrew, in the shadows of her father, Dominique Sharpton has been a youth leader for some time. She refers to that McDonald's video as, quote, disturbing, no regard for human life, and a bad reflection on reality TV shows. Dominique Sharpton says the solution starts in the home and in the community. Dominique Sharpton, I've known you a very long time.
Yes.
And I've watched you grow up as a little girl. But I wanted to talk to you tonight about the video. And it's very disturbing to me. I want us to look right now at the video. And you can see what is happening here. What is your reaction to this?
I mean, it's disturbing. You know, it's disturbing to see you know, how these girls just really had no regard towards human life or themselves, or, you know, you had one young lady whose, you know, shirt was all open. She didn't even care to acknowledge that. There were guys on the side just snickering, acting like this is funny. No one in the establishment, you know, tried to help or intervene or tell the girls to stop or get involved. And it just seems like there was just a lack of concern for these girls, for this generation overall, and that really, really disturbs me.
An hour ago, National Action Network and youth groups were out in Brooklyn with yourself. What is it that you're trying to do?
We really want to encourage peace continuously. You know, we've been out on the streets, on the front lines for this for a long time now. We have our youth group, our huddle that meets at the House of Justice every Monday, which is basically an outlet for young people to discuss the issues that they're going through, and to really have that outlet to express themselves. You know, our leader in Brooklyn East, Reverend Kevin McCall, has been doing a great job with continuing, sustaining programs. EBA, which I had, National Education Organization, we are doing pushing for conflict resolution education workshops to be implemented in public schools. So I just think that we need to just continue to take a stand, implementing programs, finding opportunities to keep young people engaged in the communities where they live, to keep that village building, to keep that that network of support increasing for them. And National Action Network being one that has been there and will continue to be there, showing them that, you know, there are opportunities for them to succeed in the community, and that they have the support system available to them at all times.
In your opinion, how did the problem get this bad amongst young people that, I mean, you grew up in Brooklyn. These young ladies are from Brooklyn. How did it get this bad?
I just think there's a lack of attention happening on a national level towards the behavioral issues. You know, there are issues in the home, there are issues on the streets. Our churches are closing their doors on our young people. You know, there has to be a community involvement, you know, not just leaving it to the school system, not just leaving it to TV or reality TV to raise our children. We have got to do there, we have got to be present, and we've got to figure out a way how to make that happen.
And so that's how you fix the problem.
That's how we fix the problem. We get more involved. Like when
Is
I
it
was.
a law enforcement issue?
It could be a law enforcement issue, but I think it really starts at home. It really starts in the community. If we, as community people living amongst these young people, could embrace them, could be there more, could come together and create more programs. Yes, there are lack of resources. Yes, there is lack of enforcement and policy and things. But if we can come together first to acknowledge the issue and to be supportive, then we can push for those changes to occur, and it will be more impactful for all of us overall.
I close this way, Dominique, and I'm going to go on a different topic. Many people know who your father is, the Reverend Al Sharpton, but you also grew up and you're very good friends with the granddaughter of George Steinbrenner, who owned, the family still owns the New York Yankees.
Yes,
and
Haley.
so when you go to the Yankee games, you're in Mr. Steinbrenner's box.
Yes.
Explain this relationship.
Well, Haley and I are best friends. She's the eldest grandchild to George Steinbrenner, and she's my best friend. We are both actresses as well, and we met doing a show in Cape Cod, and she's just always just been there. We are differences apart, we don't really get into all of that, or we're just best friends. We just love to hang out and do things together as girls do, and she's the best friend I've ever had.
What was Mr. Steinbrenner like?
He was one of those figures that you meet in life where you just have that impact on you, that you feel like you've known forever. So he was just always warm and embracing and comforting, and just always being an amazing, outstanding person to me. So of course, when we lost him, it was a great loss personally, because I'm so close to the family. But just to see the impact he had on the world, I was able to also witness that and see people he's helped and view that, and so it's an enriching experience that I'm blessed to have.
So Dominique Sharpton, Andrew, speaking out about the video that occurred in Brooklyn. Again, she grew up in Brooklyn, but also I just found it very interesting that this daughter, who is the daughter of Al Sharpton, has a very tight connection with the family of George Steinbrenner, the owner of the New York Yankees.
You never know. You never know. I just want to get back to some of the stuff about the vigil today. She talked about needing to encourage peace, that it starts at home, and needing to get more involved. Did she specify what National Action Network is doing and all that? I mean, I know they were involved in the prayer vigil.
Right,
today.
They were out there about an hour ago. I don't know the specifics as of yet, but Mr. Sharpton's organization, as of the last couple of years, they have been very specific in terms of what they plan on doing. So I'm sure they're going to announce it in the days ahead. The reason why we wanted to talk to Dominique Sharpton, she's been very involved with young people at the grassroots level. So I don't have the specific answer as of right now, but we will find out in the days ahead.
And certainly anything that can help mold or better shape some of the behaviors in that neighborhood and among those kids would be great. Oh, before you start, I just want to introduce everybody so that everybody knows who we're talking to. Jeannie Zaino is here. She's a professor of political science at Iona College, professor of campaign management at NYU. Thanks for being here. Dominic is here. Scott Levinson is the founder and president of Advanced Group, the strategic consultants. Back to him in 1 second. And Mayo Bartlett, just to his right, is an attorney at the law offices of Mayo Bartlett, PLLC, former chief of the Bias Crimes Unit at the Westchester County District Attorney's Office. Scott, you had something to say?
I mean, not that I want to invalidate anything that we've been talking about, because these are real issues, but I feel like this news story has been driven by good film.
Clearly.
And that there's nothing necessarily unique about this story. We've been talking about instances like this since Kitty Genovese wasn't reported going 60, 70 years ago, where the sensationalism of people watching and not calling the police was made into national news.
But Scott, it's not just about watching. It's about the action of those young ladies.
And I'm suggesting,
that young
Dominic,
lady was standing there in her bra.
I don't know where you grew up,
and didn't see.
I don't know where
I grew up in the projects.
So what I'm saying, how many times have you seen 5-on-1 gang fights?
And I think we should speak out about it every
we
time it
should,
happens.
but that doesn't mean that this particular situation is so unique from your experience or my experience that we should stigmatize an entire community because what's happened there is so different than what happens all over the place. Because where I grew up in Bayside, Queens, if I crossed 35th,
are we supposed to ignore the problem?
We're supposed to recognize that the problem is global. That the problem isn't plaguing one community.
So are we supposed to give these young ladies a pass?
No, what we're supposed to recognize is that violence is throughout communities, is regardless of class, is regardless of race. And that's the issue we should be talking about. Not about these girls as if there's a unique situation of a 5-on-1 gang fight here, because when I grew up in Bayside, Queens, every time I crossed 35th Avenue, I faced the same thing. It's nothing unique about this. That's all I'm saying. That's shameful.
I think
That's
it's
shameful,
very
but it's not.
unique, and I think it's a
What's
reflection
unique
of
is
all
the
the
good
bad
film.
things.
What I'm saying is what's unique is
No,
the good
I
film.
could care less about the good film.
Yeah, but
I think
the medium
the
cares a lot
the
about
medium
it.
cares about the film, but it's very bad in terms of what's going on with our young people. That's my point.
Youth, it's a problem.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that. And I think to Scott's point, had there not been the video of it, I mean, there were probably 100 other similar incidents around the nation that happened within a couple of days of that one in Brooklyn. Had it not been for the film, had it not been for the video, we might not have seen it. I have a different question about Sharpton and the Sharptons and the National Action Network, because one of the big criticisms that you get is that if it's a black community victimized issue, they'll be there and they'll be vocal and they'll be leading the charge. But if it's the other way around, if it's a white victim and a black attacker, you might not necessarily get the same level of involvement. And is that a fair criticism? And do you think that bears out from what you've seen, Mayo?
I'm not sure that it's a fair criticism, because a lot of times it depends on what the media chooses to cover. So we've had situations in cases I've been involved with where we're very vocal with respect to one matter and it gets much more attention than with respect to another. For instance, when we talk about police brutality, we talk about it across the board. We look at cases that happen in New Hampshire where all the players are white. It's a systemic issue. It's not an issue, as you said before, it's not an us versus them. And that same thing happens. And even to go back to your point about Kitty Genovese, it probably was easier to get involved there because people were in their apartments watching one person assail her. Here you're in a restaurant and it's difficult to even know who's involved. So it's you against 10 or 12 people, but that happens in every community also. It's simply that if it's not on video, we tend not to talk about it. If Mr. Garner's case wasn't on video, we wouldn't be talking about Mr. Garner.
And I think we often skew the definition of prejudice with the definition of racism. And one of the things the National Action Network does well is call attention to systemic racism in our society. That only exists when you're in a black on white or a black on some other racial situation that is a dominant race. That's just what the definition of racism is.
Andrew, I would also say, though, the National Action Network doesn't bring attention to every case because they're going to focus on the cases that they're handling. There are lots of cases where black people are victims and you don't hear the National Action Network, or perhaps the National Action Network makes a comment, but it's not nationally picked up.
And we're going to leave it there for this segment. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to focus on some New York stories, including this question with the NYPD. Did they tamper with Wikipedia pages surrounding police brutality cases? We'll take a look at the investigation that points to some work done off NYPD servers next.